Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
So I am so excited to be here. One reason I'm really excited to be here is because it's September. We finished August, y'all. We made it. I feel like I want to, anybody who's lived in Houston, give yourself a round of applause. If I would have had time this morning, I would have printed y'all out a certificate to say you survived August in Houston. Some of us cheated a little bit and went away for a little bit, but that's okay. It still counts. We did it. And here it is, September, and we're just welcoming in fall. We're ready for it. Huh? So Reverend Michael's on vacation today, a well-deserved vacation. And I thought about that this morning when I was going to break it to you where he was. And I thought, why is it, do you think, that we feel like when we say that someone goes on vacation, we have to preface it with those words, well-deserved? Why do you think that we have to do that? And it's only one notch down from the dreaded much-needed vacation. Much needed to me sounds a little ominous, like we were just a day or so away from everything going sideways. So when I was thinking about it this morning, Spirit told me that there's a message for somebody in this room or online that you're waiting for it to be considered a well-deserved vacation. Don't wait. You're waiting for somebody to say that you deserve a break. If Spirit is calling you to take a break, to take a day of rest and renewal, a day, a week, whatever you need, it's time. Don't wait for the much needed. And some of my retired friends who might not have a vocation, you still get a vacation too, because some of y'all are the busiest people I know. So whatever Spirit's calling for you to get some rest, some renewal, I hope that you'll honor it. So we honor Reverend Michael as he takes his. And so that's just my talk on vacation. This doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about today. One of the things I'm excited to bring to you is I'll be speaking actually this week and next week. A few weeks ago, in my daily reading, I was reading a book called Everything Belongs by Richard Rohr. And I came across a quote in there that rattled me a little bit, created a little bit of that sacred disturbance. There was a message, a resonance for me in there. And I was so inspired by it. And I thought, there's something for me here. Maybe there's something for you all here too, for you. And I'm going to share it in a little bit, but I couldn't quite. It felt almost incomplete. There was like another piece was missing. Then a few weeks ago, in one of his talks, Reverend Michael recited a Mary Oliver poem that he has done before, and I've heard it before. But when it came to that last line in that poem, where it says, "Tell me, what will you do with your one wild and precious life?" Ooh, it hit a little different that time. I had heard it before, but it hit a little different. And what I realized in that moment is that was the question to this other quote, this response. What will you do with your wild and precious life? So in order for us to consider, because each one of you has a one wild and precious life in this incarnation, I turn to our unity principles. So today we're going to explore the first two unity principles and how they can support us in knowing, in discerning, in unfolding what is ours to do in this one wild and precious life we have. Because teachings can come and go. Some things are kind of even spiritual fads. Things that resonated with us a few years ago or practices that we used to do, they may come and go. Those are all just forms that things take. But spiritual principles, by nature, they are eternal, they are timeless, and they meet us where we are. So wherever you are, if you're here at Unity for the first time, they are there for you, to support you, to be a foundation as you explore your spiritual unfoldment. If you've heard 1,000 Unity messages, you're in a different place than you were on the 700th one. On the 14th one, you get the picture. So the principles are always here, no matter what is going on in your life. Transition, change, boredom, fear, anxiety, loss. The principles are here. And they come in a myriad of forms, whether it's poetry or exquisite piece of music, even a bumper sticker. Sometimes Spirit will speak to you on a bumper sticker. Now, not all the bumper stickers I see in Houston are from Spirit, I have to say. Unless I know it's all God. So our first unity principle, God is absolute good, everywhere present. God is absolute good, everywhere present. Now, before we get too far into unpacking that, I know the word God is loaded. I know some of us don't have a good relationship with the word God, and I'm not asking you to change that here today. But what I will offer is that this idea of God, no matter what word we call it, no matter what word you have for the infinite, for the isness, for the allness, for the divine intelligence that animates your life, that animates all things, whatever name you have for it, guess what? It ain't big enough. It's not big enough. We could all sit in this room and brainstorm ideas and names for God until the end of time, and we wouldn't be able to encapsulate the allness of God. Because language in its very nature is dualistic. If something is tall, it can't be short. If something is big, it can't be small. Those are very simplistic observations, but you know what I mean. It's dualistic. If you say something is something, then it's not something else, but God is. You could just put a period after God is. And so Ellen Davenport wrote a book about the unity principle. She's a unity author and minister, and she encourages us in our relationship with God. She says she hopes that every person is changing their definition or their understanding of God at least once every 10 years. I say once every 10 days, whatever works for you. I think this is something that as we continue to evolve and grow, we constantly want to be asking, who are we saying God is? What are we saying God is? Because it will inform every aspect of your life. One of my favorite pointers into the activity of God comes actually from the Tao Te Ching, and the Tao is just another name for God. It's the way, it's life itself and how it expresses. And there's a passage from the Tao that says that the Tao gives birth to all things. It nourishes them, it maintains them, it cares for them, it comforts them, it protects them, and takes them back into itself. Creating without possessing, acting without expecting, guiding without interfering. That is why it is in the very nature of all things to love the Tao. So this is the Tao, the way, the life, God, divine, that it does not experience that duality. It can create without the need to possess. Okay? That comes in when we're in the human dualistic, the world of form. But in the absolute realm, God gives. It acts without expecting. It guides without interfering. How many of us are good at guiding without interfering, do we think? There's a fine line there. Sometimes people want to be interfered with, right? No, God knows that it just freely gives. And so there's another piece to this. And this is where the Christian mystic, Meister Eckhart, comes in and says that God is pure one and separate from all two-ness. So in the world of form, this is where we create opposites. And it's part of the nature of being human. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just the world of form when we interact with things and people and we compare and we contrast. But we can use our spiritual principle of oneness, of God in all things, to bring us back to the truth that those differences are on the relative level only. They are on the relative level only. So if God is absolute good everywhere present, we go to principle 2, and this is about humans. So we've got the nature of the divine, we've got the nature of humanity. So if we are expressions, self-expressions of the divine, you might say, how can we be anything but good? Okay, that's not a message some of us got growing up. It's a revolutionary message when you hear it for the first time, that we are inherently good. And sometimes you'll hear in unity that we have a spark of divinity within us. That's what the second principle says. And I love it, and it's also, as a pointer, as all pointers are, it has its own limitations. Unity teacher and author Eric Butterworth, he says this. He said, our divinity isn't in us like a raisin in a bun, something that you can just, if I saw a raisin, I'd take it out. Chocolate chip, I might leave it in, but a raisin, I might take it out. But it's not a raisin in a bun, something that can be removed, something that's that this spark of divinity surrounded by all this human stuff that's not good. It's not that we have this little seed of goodness. He says no. And it's like the ocean in the wave. Not like a raisin in the bun, but like the ocean in a wave. Imagine if you could cup a wave in your hand. The entirety of the ocean, all its components is there. No, not the whole vastness of it, but nothing in that wave is not ocean. Everything in that wave is ocean. And every wave has the same amount of ocean in it, no matter the size. So, your wave's not saltier than mine. I mean, I know some salty people a little bit, but we each have saltiness in there. The wetness, the components of it are all in there, in that wave. We cannot separate out the God from you. So our thoughts sometimes will tell us we can. Circumstances in our life can tell us that that is true, that that's clouded over somehow, that there's something we got to do to dig out and find that raisin in the bun, something we got to do. It's like Ken so beautifully sang that song, and then at some point the seeking is done. The grasping is done. The searching is done. It's the realization that it's here, and it's now. Jesus knew this. Jesus, our way shower, spiritual teacher, he said, you are the light of the world. And a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they place it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. And in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Now, just unpack that one a little bit. Because there are other places where Jesus is a teacher. He says, go pray in secret, go off and do this. Don't let your left hand know what the right hand is doing. But in this case, he says, let your light shine so that everyone might see it, so that they may glorify God when they see your light. Why is this? I believe because it's not just your light. It's not just my light. It's not just the light of each individual. We each shine our light, and there is a recognition and an awareness when you are shining your light, when you are shining your light, when you are shining your light. I see the divine in you. There's a spark of recognition, and there is an expansion when we are able to shine the light, because it's not our own individual light that we're trying to create and form and put out into the world. This is the light of your inherent divinity shining. It's not so much as something making it happen, it's as allowing it to happen. If you can be receptive and open to the idea that you are inherently good, that the in of you is the ocean, the entirety of the ocean is in your body. That all that you are is God. There's not parts that you have to separate out that aren't good enough for God. All of it is included. So if we are spirit, if we are this beautiful light, then what's to stop us from just having this experience of being in the light all the time, of feeling that light all the time? And I love what Eckhart Tolle talks about a spiritual realization. And he says spiritual realization is not just belief in the thought that you are spirit. He said that's a little bit closer to the truth than what your birth certificate says you are. But it's still just a belief. It's just a thought. What we need to do is really get it down in us that there's also a corresponding belief that needs to be released, and that is the belief that is our sum total of all the things we do, all our preferences, all our opinions, all of our achievements. Somehow we make that up to be our identity, and it creates a lot of need for attention, these little things called ourselves, our personalities. They need a lot of attention, a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep. And when we are so focused on them, that's who we think we are, we're not able to see in this spiritual realization that who we are is spirit. Yes, we are both. And that's the tricky part of being human. So in this honoring of the tricky part of being human, I have two very deep and profound wisdom teachings I want to share with you. And you may have heard these before, but you're in a different place now, so maybe they will resonate with you deeply. The first one goes a little something like this. A man was looking for a parking space, and it was August in Houston. And he had already run 3 errands that day and already gotten sweaty and not sweaty and sweaty and not sweaty. And he really just could not be bothered to go out in the heat one more time. And so he's driving around the shopping center looking for a good parking space. And he says, God, please, enough already. It's almost the end of August. I can't do another hot moment. So if you open up a parking space for me, I promise. I know I said I'm going to start going to church more regularly. I'm going to start volunteering. I'm going to do all that stuff. Just please give me a parking space close to the front. Right then, a parking space opens. He said, never mind, God, I found one. Okay? That's one man. That man had a friend. That man had a friend who had an altar in her home, and every night she would pray and she would light a candle and she would pray to God and say, God, please, please help me win the lottery. Please help me win the lottery. If I win the lottery, you would not believe the good that this money will do. I will give it all away. I will give it to my family. I will give it to people who need it. I will support my church. I will just do amazing things. You won't believe what I will do with this money if you help me win the lottery. One day, after months of praying like this, she heard a voice, and it said, my beloved child, I would love to help you, but you need to buy a ticket first. So these two ancient wisdom teachings speak to a paradoxical kind of truth that's at work as we live our lives. Which is it? Do we need to do things to make things happen? Or do we have everything under control? Or do we need to put our actions in the service of God? Or do we just say, good things will happen, I'm just going to sit here on my meditation cushion? It's a balance. It's a balance as we navigate this world of duality, of form, that we get to play with it. And that's the beautiful thing when you begin to know yourself as spirit. And this isn't a one and done exercise. I think about people that have been coming to Unity for a long time. And I think about, which is relative, right? Some people decades. Some people a decade. I've been here about a decade. And what I remember is when I first came to Unity, that these ideas were brand new to me. This idea that I was inherently good. First of all, I was blown away by a spiritual community that didn't build fences, that opened up and welcomed all. I was blown away by that didn't build a fence around who we are and who everybody else is. And you can only come here if you believe in here, if you fit into this little box. And then I kept coming. I'd cry through every meditation. Some of us, and maybe you're here right now, when you'd come here in the meditations, this is maybe the first time that you've actually allowed yourself to be with and to meet the God of your being. And when you meet the God of your being and you discover that there's nothing for you to do except to just be, and that you are fully loved in that moment, that all the ideas or any ideas you had of insufficiency or lack or not enoughness all dissolve when you meet the God of your being. That's something that you can come home to here in our teaching. And so no matter how long you've been exploring Unity, I invite you to consider that these principles are here for you no matter what is going on in your life, no matter how advanced of a spiritual being you are, that there's always more to discover, more freedom to be had, more releases to be made. And it's all good. It's all good. And so I'd like to close today's message with the quote that I shared with you earlier, that I didn't share with you. I promised I would share with you. And this is, as I said, when I had this thought about this resonated with me so deeply, this question, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? And I invite you, as you go about your week, to ask yourself this question: who do you say you are? Who are you saying God is? Because how you hold the divine and how you hold your relationship to it can either create freedom or imprisonment, can either create joy and lightness for you, or it can create struggle and suffering. And just by bringing your conscious awareness to the thoughts that you are holding around it, curiosity, this isn't a time to beat yourself up for thinking things that I should know better than that. No, let the shoulds go. That should energy never helps anybody do anything. Greet yourself with compassion, whatever arises. Who are you saying you are? And then next week, we're going to look at how our third, fourth, and fifth principles help us experience a life that we love. Experience being in love with life, no matter the circumstances. And so I'd like to share with you this quote, and it's by Father Pedro Rupe. And it was in Richard Rohr's book, Everything Belongs. And I just thought it was so beautiful. And he says this: there's nothing more practical than finding God, than falling in love in a quite absolute final way. Because what you are in love with, what seizes your imagination, will affect everything. It will decide what gets you up in the morning, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and appreciation. And he says this: fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything. So at this moment, I'd like to close in prayer. I invite you to once again close down your eyes and just breathe, knowing that as you breathe, you're breathing in the goodness of God. You're breathing in the allness of God. That God's perfect love, God's giving without expecting, that's God creating without possessing, guiding you without interfering. You are free to express yourself authentically. Because all that you are is God. There's nothing that is held outside the circle of God or of God's love. It's all included. Every nook and cranny of you is fully loved, fully supported. And so what I know and affirm for each person here today, each person watching this online, is that all you will find to the question, who do you say you are, is nothing but pure light, pure joy, pure beingness. And that any seeming obstacle or challenge to expressing this simply dissolves in the brilliant nature of your own light, in the brilliant, infinite beingness of you. And so that you may go forth to do whatever you feel called to do, whatever gives you joy, whatever creates a sense of aliveness in you. You are free. You are free to complete it. You are free to do it. You are free to express it. And as each one of us shines our light so that others may see it, we are all blessed. We are all uplifted. And so we are grateful. We are grateful for each unique presence, each unique wave here today. Grateful for our interconnectedness with all of life and with Source. And we say thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Thank you all so much for being here today. You are a blessing. You are the light of the world. Go forth and shine. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.